Hello and greetings. This is round two of the Get Your Game On Store Championship from February 20th. This is round two, game one. We have Chris on the left playing Leela, and we have Tom on the right playing Engineering the Future with an alt art ID. I believe that may be one from the ANR Players Circuit. All right, and it looks like they're drawing their cards, deciding if they want to take a mulligan or not. I've played Chris in a later round, so I know his deck a little bit better. And I believe at this time, Food Coats was still popular, so it looks like Tom likes his hand, is keeping and deciding how he wants to go about it. Looks like they're explaining a few things. It's going to be a little bit hard to tell how many credits he has with the 20-sided dice, but looks like he's starting out pretty aggressively with a remote and something in a remote and something to defend R&D. That does leave him open for Siphon, so I'm not sure if Chris has it or he's just kind of checking things out right now. Although if he does have a Eve in that remote, it probably wouldn't be too bad. Waste a Siphon and still have credits trickling in. So it looks like Chris checked R&D and he has a gang sign, so it's going to make it hard to glacier up and score anything. But it looks like Tom just scores out his Gila hands right away, hoping not to be worried. May not have any more agendas in his hand, and he's going to bounce the R&D ice. See if he has anything to follow that up with. It'd be great if he was able to drop a R&D interface. But he's drawing up a little bit. He's going to check again. Nope, nothing on R&D. And is getting set up with the same old thing. And it's going to check HQ. See if there's anything else in there. Looks like it's just an Adonis, which he trashes. Only has a couple of credits left. Alright. Tom's mandatory draw replaces the ice on R&D. Gets credit for it, and it looks like he's using Gila hands to get 3 more credits. And still leaving HQ open. Alright, looks like we got a bank job. Let's see if that be able to use that to gain some early credits. Oh, it looks like he ran and Tom decided not to res. So that was an easy 7 credit swing. And is checking out R&D, and a rotor is res, but it doesn't trash anything, so it's a good time to run. And now he plays down the alias so that he can get through it later. Top decks is mandatory draw. Double checking that alias. It's not one of the central breakers that get used very much. But I believe it's multiple credits to raise the strength by 3. I think it's 2 credits to raise the strength by 3, but only 1 to break each subroutine. So it's going to do pretty well against that row turret. So Chris is drawing up a couple times. And there's the Maker's Eye that he was hoping to have earlier, but that's enough with the alias to just spend a couple credits to get through. Nothing so far. Nope. And everything is good in R&D for Tom. Let's take his mandatory draw, and he sneaks out another agenda Chris would have to bounce that unres dice now. But he's probably going to try to see what else is in HQ first. It looks like it's a Vikram. And takes that piece of ice as well. So it makes sense to take the gang sign trigger first because you don't want to bounce an ice and then happen to access it with gang sign. So lower your amount of targets for that, for non-agenda targets, by doing it in that order. He's looking at his options. It looks like he has a corroder. So he has plenty of things to be able to apply pressure, maybe a stim hack as well, in a special order. So, and he looks like he has an HQ interface, but Tom so far does not seem to care about accesses to HQ. And he's been very brazen with his rushing out agendas. Not worried about inside job, and it has worked out for him. So now he defends HQ and gets a lot more money with that hedge fund, and decides to defend archives, possibly worried about sneak door. Seems to be signaling that he has important stuff in HQ, but doesn't quite look. It looks like he has a Jackson. 2 Jacksons, maybe a Viper. So maybe it's a bluff to get Chris to waste time checking HQ when there really isn't anything there. Chris puts down a symmetrical visage after he draws it, so it doesn't have any effect for this turn. Alright, Tom's using Jackson Howard to draw some more cards, see what accelerate his game, but decides to just defend R&D for now. And leaving that Jackson Howard there. Probably doesn't care with the other one in his hand if Chris trashes it. And he has another bank job. He's going to see. It's a good way to force Tom's hand on whether or not to use that Jackson. Probably didn't care very much before, and he's just going to leave it there. Isn't quite concerned about Chris's credit level at this point. Chris now has enough credits to put down that HQI, and now Tom has to really appreciate his timings for agendas and hopefully be able to score them when there's only one or less of other agendas in his hand. So now that he's taking a few moments to think, see how he wants to defend against the HQI. Alright, he decides to just draw. So Jackson's a good way to choose the cards in his hands that help him the most. So looks like this might be another agenda, or maybe he's hoping to get one of his campaigns going. I think at this point, Chris definitely is considering whether or not how he can get into that server now, because Tom has shown no regard for pushing out agendas. So he can get it through anything besides a code gate. And let's see if Tom, looks like the Viper that's been in HQ is the one that he chose. So it's it's working out pretty well for him. He's going to fire off the traces and see if Chris will pay to get through. Looks like he hasn't adjusted his credits, so he doesn't seem to be boosting it by any amount. But is Chris willing to pay for it? Looks like he does pay 3, and there's the Adonis campaign. Chris is focusing on keeping Tom poor and not allowing him to get any of these campaigns going. It did look like he did have a a Breaker Bay grid in there, and now he's playing the guess what I have in here game. Let's see if Chris is willing to check every turn. And without, looks like he does have a drive-by, possibly. I guess if he, without an admin at 4, it's going to be really hard to continually test this, or a YOG with data suckers. And it looks like he's got his EVE campaign going. And already starting to get benefits from that on this turn. Making sure his ice is going to hold up. There's probably the Vikram is probably there, maybe on R&D, and continues to use Jackson. Possibly hoping to get his Caprice so he can set up a scoring server. He might have drawn it just now, but the only remote server that he has any kind of defense on is already being occupied, and it's going to be occupied for a while. Alright, looks like he's discarding 1 or 2 cards there. Alright, Chris is taking his turn. He's going to make a run, I believe, on Archives. Or no, maybe on Jackson. Make sure Tom doesn't have access to the great card draw. I'm going to take one of the face down cards. I didn't quite tell which of their cards he's taken. Chris has another HQI, so you can definitely lock down HQ for the foreseeable future. Putting a lot of pressure on Tom to be able to score as soon as he draws agendas. Now that his Jackson is gone. But I believe he still has a second Jackson there. And there's the Vikram on HQ. He does have the ferry, and he can use the alias to get through it, or just click through. Doesn't have to worry about the first rub routine because it's the only piece of ice. So it does lose a little bit of value being the first piece of ice on the server. It looks like he's using alias to break it, leaving him with 0 credits. But he can access 2 cards. May not be the right choice now, since Tom did use Jackson Howard to set his hand how he wants, and is in a position to score right away, unless he chooses not to take advantage of Eve. But Tom did have to pay a lot of his credits for that Vikram raise. And he just biotics out that ABT, but no jacks on the board, so he doesn't have to. Chris doesn't have to worry about whether or not he'll fire it. Looks like he's not using it, and let's see what cards he'll access and which cards he'll. Okay, looks like he's seeing the same 2 cards. Second Jackson and another Adonis campaign. And has he figured out if he's bouncing any card? Okay, just remembers to bounce the R&D 1. If Tom wants to put it back, you have to spend another credit. Likely just neutralizing his ability for a turn. Alright, Chris is drawing up, seeing if he can find any solutions for Tom's board state. He is at 5 agenda points, and Chris does not have any so far. And that kind of turns off half of Leela's ability and the gang sign ability, because likely the next score will be the final score. And so far that gang sign hasn't scored Chris any agendas. It does have another fairy, so you could get into any of the central servers so far that we know of. Okay, and then it looks like Tom is getting back from going down a few credits from scoring with Biotic, setting up another remote server. This might be the Caprice server, so you can just up, and he looks like he pushed out another agenda. Although Chris, it looks like he just made a run and Tom did not res. Or maybe he inside jobbed and then made a run on archives as well. So he has a rainbow in there, but rainbow's not as good for this matchup as it is against double fork to protect ice. Alright, so he's trying to set his hand, see if he can get that last agenda and a way to score it. Looks like he's going to set up the Eve server as his scoring server. Chris doesn't have a lot of options now. He's very low on credits. Looks like he does have. Okay, looks like he's just gonna go for R&D and hope to get something from there. And it looks like he's 3 misses again. He's getting the accesses, but it's not proving very fruitful. So now Tom knows he's got a couple turns, depending on how he uses Jackson. Stabilize a little bit more, but looks like he's just gonna go. Yeah, he's probably just setting up. Oh no, it looks like he just wants to get the agenda ready to be able to put it in that scoring remote. So he either put down an Ash or Caprice in that remote server. Chris does have a short gamble, but he's very far away from being able to use it, so he's gonna put down the daily cast so he can get some money come in, but it may not pay off by the time the game finishes. Tom has a very strong board position and just looking for a right agenda. It looks like he drew Global Food Initiative, which is not the right agenda you want to see at this point, but it may have to do. Doesn't look like Tom has an incredible amount of credits, but he does have a steady stream. Looks like he's going to get back, possibly. Oh, looks like he just wants to biotic out the last agenda. It's going to be very difficult for Chris to defend against. Right now, Tom can see that Chris can't deal with any campaigns or any other remote, so he's just going to put down another remote there, see if Chris is willing to check it, see if he's willing to trash or campaign, if that's what it ends up being. And likely already discarded the Global Food Initiative. But Chris still has that stim hack, so if he is, and maybe now he thinks that since he took the biotic that it's in HQ, so he's going to give it a shot, see if he does end up having it in HQ. So you're going to be able to see 3 cards and not worry about getting through that Vikram. It looks like another Vikram, the biotic he got back, and another EVE campaign. Even though he has a few credits left over from the EVE campaign, he doesn't want to spend his own credits. And he's down to 1 card in his grip. Now he can't get to that decoder if he needs it, unless he has another one in his decoder in his hand, or another. Well, he does have the same old thing, so if he does truly need it but doesn't have very many credits. Yeah, it looks like Tom is taking his time defending his centrals, just waiting for a 2-point agenda to come through so he can biotic it out. So maybe he's hoping to be able to keep an agenda in hand for 1 turn by drawing heavily with Jackson Howard and not worry about Chris getting through. Alright, Chris starts his turn, gets his daily cast money, ends up drawing a hand. He finally drew into Earthrise Hotel, but I think he just spent his 3 clicks to gain credit so he can play that Sure Gamble. And if Tom kept that 2-point agenda, he could biotic it out, but it doesn't look like he has it. So he's going to dig some more, see if he can find the last ABT or one of the 2 Vitruvius left. Alright, looks like Chris is making him clear out the Jackson. Alright, and trying to decide, he might have drawn into a 5 advance or a 4 advance agenda. And doesn't want to bother trying to scoring those. And Chris is digging for answers, see if he can find something that will be able to help him get through. There you go. It looks like he had it right there. Finally drew the Vitruvius and was able to biotic it for the win. So really a strong game for Hospiroid here on the right. Getting the agendas at the right time. Actually probably a little too slow for his taste. But and Chris missed out on both of those Maker's Eyes, and none of the Gank side hit anything. And, all right, well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you for the next game.